What's up, everyone? Welcome back to No Filter Frequency, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the most insane trending stories without holding back. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Crystal, and honey, do we have a story for you today that is absolutely wild.
I mean, when I first read this headline, I had to read it 3 times because I thought I was hallucinating.
Right? Like, there are so many layers to this story, I don't even know where to begin.
Okay, so picture this. We're talking about a 27-year-old professional cornhole player named Dayton Weber.
Wait, hold up. Professional cornhole player? That's a real thing?
Apparently. But here's the kicker. This guy is a quadruple amputee and he's been charged with first-degree murder.
No way. No freaking way.
I'm telling you, this story gets more insane by the minute. So, allegedly, he got into an argument with another 27-year-old, Bradrick Michael Wells, while they were in Weber's car in La Plata, Maryland.
Okay, but I have so many questions already. Like, how is a quadruple amputee driving a car?
That's what I'm saying. The logistics of this whole thing are blowing my mind. But wait, it gets worse.
How could it possibly get worse?
So, there were passengers in the back seat who witnessed the whole thing. The argument escalates and allegedly Weber shoots and kills Wells right there in the car.
Oh, God, can you imagine being those passengers?
But here's where it gets even more unhinged. After the shooting, Weber apparently asks these passengers to help him pull the victim out of the car.
What? He asks them to help dispose of the body?
That's what it sounds like. And thank God these passengers had some sense and were like, absolutely not, and just left.
Good for them. I mean, what are you supposed to do in that situation?
Exactly. So they refuse and leave, and then Weber just drives off with the dead body still in his car.
This is like something out of a horror movie. A quadruple amputee driving around with a dead body in his car. I cannot even process this.
And get this, 2 hours later, they find Wells's body about 14 miles away in Charlotte Hall, Maryland.
So he dumped it himself. How?
That's what I keep coming back to. The physical logistics of all this are just mind-boggling. But the story doesn't end there.
There's more?
Oh yeah, so after dumping the body, Weber keeps driving, and I mean really driving. They find his car over 100 miles away in Charlottesville, Virginia.
He drove from Maryland to Virginia? That's like a 2-hour drive.
Right? And here's how they caught him. He was arrested at a local hospital in Charlottesville because he was seeking treatment for some medical issue.
Wait, so he commits this alleged murder, drives around with a dead body, dumps it, flees to another state, and then just walks into a hospital?
That's exactly what happened. I mean, maybe whatever medical condition he has was serious enough that he had to seek treatment.
That makes sense, I guess. But, like, didn't he think they'd catch him at a hospital? Those places have cameras everywhere.
Maybe he wasn't thinking clearly. I mean, this whole thing screams panic and poor decision-making. They've charged him with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and a bunch of other related charges.
First-degree murder means premeditated, right? So they think this wasn't just a heat-of-the-moment thing.
That's what first degree typically means, yeah. But I'm honestly shocked by this whole story. Like when you think of professional cornhole players.
You think of like backyard barbecues and beer, not murder charges.
Exactly. And the fact that he's a quadruple amputee adds this whole other layer of complexity to everything. Like, how competitive is professional cornhole that it leads to this kind of conflict?
I don't know, but apparently competitive enough that people are making careers out of it. I had no idea that was even a thing until this story.
Same. And now he's sitting in jail waiting for extradition back to Maryland to face these charges. I just keep thinking about those poor passengers who witnessed all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Can you imagine the trauma? You're just riding in a car with someone and suddenly you're witnessing a murder and being asked to help dispose of a body.
And these are probably going to be key witnesses in the trial. Their testimony is going to be crucial to this case.
Right. This whole case is just so bizarre on every level. The victim, Broderick Wells, was the same age as the accused too, 27 years old. Such a waste.
It really is tragic. Whatever led to that argument in the car, it definitely didn't need to end this way. And now Weber's potentially facing life in prison and a family has lost someone forever.
Exactly. It's just such a senseless situation all around. I'm really curious to see how this plays out in court, especially with all the unique circumstances involved.
Absolutely. We'll definitely be following this story as it develops. What did you guys think of this crazy case? Drop us your thoughts in the comments below. But let's talk about the investigation for a minute, because there are so many fascinating details that really show how law enforcement pieced this together.
And don't forget to like this episode, subscribe to No Filter Frequency, and share it with your friends who love wild true crime stories as much as we do. Right, like think about it. They had to track this guy across 2 states, and they probably started with witness testimony from those passengers.
We'll be back next week with another unbelievable story that'll leave you questioning everything. Until then, stay curious, stay unfiltered, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Exactly. Those passengers were probably the key to everything. They witnessed the shooting, they saw him ask for help disposing of the body, and they could identify both the vehicle and the suspect. Without their cooperation, this case would have been much harder to solve.
Peace out, everyone. And then there's the whole timeline aspect. They found the body about 2 hours after the shooting, 14 miles away, but he was arrested even later at a hospital over 100 miles away in Virginia. That's a pretty clear trail for investigators to follow.
Plus, you know what's going to be really interesting from a legal perspective? The defense is probably going to have to address the elephant in the room. How exactly did a quadruple amputee carry out these alleged actions?
That's such a good point. I mean, the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he physically could have done everything he's accused of. Shooting someone, moving the body, disposing of it. The defense could potentially argue that it's physically impossible.
But then again, if this guy was competing professionally in cornhole as a quadruple amputee, he clearly had adapted to function at a high level despite his disabilities. That actually works against any physical impossibility defense.
That's true. And honestly, this whole story has made me curious about the professional cornhole scene. Like, how competitive is it really? Are there major tournaments, prize money? I had no idea people could make a living doing this.
I actually looked this up after I read the story. Apparently, there's an American Cornhole League. They have televised tournaments, and the top players can earn six-figure incomes. There are professional sponsors, endorsement deals, the whole 9 yards. It's a legitimate sport with a serious competitive scene.
6 figures? Okay, now I'm starting to understand how this could be someone's full-time career. And the fact that Weber was competing at that level as a quadruple amputee is actually pretty remarkable from an athletic standpoint, regardless of the alleged crimes.
Absolutely. Adaptive sports are incredible, and athletes with disabilities often develop amazing levels of strength, coordination, and problem-solving skills to compete. Which brings us back to the legal question. Those same adaptive skills that made him successful in cornhole could theoretically apply to other physical tasks.
Right, but I keep coming back to what could have possibly led to this situation. I mean, what kind of argument escalates to murder? And how did Bradrick Wells know Weber in the first place? Were they friends, business associates, fellow athletes?
That's one of the biggest mysteries to me, too. The fact that Wells was willing to be in Weber's car suggests they knew each other reasonably well. And both being 27 years old, maybe they grew up together or met through sports or mutual friends. But what could turn a relationship like that deadly?
Money disputes, personal grudges, competition-related conflicts? I mean, if you're making serious money in professional cornhole, there could be all sorts of business relationships and rivalries that we don't know about. Or it could be something completely unrelated to sports.
And you know what's really disturbing about this case? It shows how quickly an argument can spiral completely out of control, from whatever they were disagreeing about to someone being dead in what seems like minutes. It's terrifying how fast things can escalate.
Exactly. And it makes you think about conflict resolution and anger management. Like, what warning signs might have been there? Did this come out of nowhere, or were there previous incidents? The witnesses in the back seat probably have insight into how the argument started and escalated.
Speaking of the witnesses, I'm really curious about the forensic evidence in this case. I mean, there was allegedly a shooting inside a vehicle, which would leave behind gunshot residue, blood evidence, maybe bullet holes. All of that would support the witness's testimony.
Right, and the body was found pretty quickly, within 2 hours. That's good for preserving evidence at the scene where it was dumped. Plus, they found Weber's car in Virginia, so they probably have a treasure trove of physical evidence linking him to the victim and the crime scenes.
And this being a multi-state case adds another layer of complexity. You've got Maryland law enforcement handling the murder investigation, but Virginia authorities were involved in the arrest. There's probably FBI coordination too, since he crossed state lines after allegedly committing a felony.
That's a really good point. Interstate flight after committing a crime is a federal offense, so this could potentially involve federal charges on top of the state murder charges. The legal proceedings are going to be incredibly complex.
But beyond all the legal complexity, let's not forget the human impact here. There's a family that lost Bradrick Wells, 27-year-old who's never coming home. And there's probably a family dealing with the shock that their loved one is accused of murder. This affects so many people beyond just the two main individuals involved.
Absolutely. And those witnesses, they're going to be dealing with trauma from what they experienced. Being in a car when someone gets shot and killed, then being asked to help dispose of the body, that's going to require serious counseling and support. They're victims in this too, in their own way.
This case is probably also having ripple effects in the professional cornhole community. I mean, when one of your sports competitors gets charged with murder, that's not great for the sport's image or reputation. Other players are probably dealing with a lot of questions and media attention they never expected.
Right, and especially in the adaptive sports community. Here you have someone who was probably seen as an inspiration, a quadruple amputee competing at a professional level. That's a powerful story of overcoming obstacles. But now that narrative gets completely complicated by these serious criminal allegations.
It really shows how complicated real life is, doesn't it? People aren't just heroes or villains, they're complex individuals with multiple sides. Someone can be incredibly accomplished in one area of their life while potentially doing something terrible in another. The human condition is just messy and contradictory sometimes.
That's such a profound way to put it. And I think following this case is going to be fascinating from so many angles. The legal challenges, the forensic evidence, the impact on all the communities involved, and ultimately the question of justice for Bradrick Wells and accountability for what happened in that car. There are just so many layers to unpack as this moves through the court system.